And you know what the best part is? We'll see the racers do 2 seeds back to back, so you'll get to see even more rando action. So as always, there's going to be a 60-second gap between the seeds, so everybody's swap time is going to be consistent across platforms. So it looks like we're going to be starting off with World 3 right now, and the first level is going to be 6-1 right out of the gate. So it looks like everybody's going to have a good opportunity to pick up a power up right away. So going to be a little bit careful with dodging these fire piranhas. It looks like Human Mustard took an early death, just falling right in the pit. That's a bit unfortunate. So Paradox is able to... So it looks like everybody else was able to pick up a tail, and they're going to be all finishing off at roughly the same time. So do bear with us, and we'll get our timer synced up very shortly. So it looks like it's going to be a pretty linear path on the overworld map right now, so they have no choice but to do these next 3 levels before we get to see what the next pipe transitions are going to be. So it looks like next up we have hand number 3, so we'll see what item our racers are going to get. And it looks like it's going to be a leaf. So this is pretty consistent with vanilla SMB3, so the items may or may not be randomized, so it could also just be a coincidence that they just happen to get a leaf. Up next, we have 2-2. So yeah, everybody's favorite to do in Randomizer. It's not really much you can do in the way of P-Speech strats, because you don't normally have an enemy that you can stomp on to boost across. So luckily, you have the tail, which allows you to glide over the vast majority of the water if you have to do any swimming at all. And they're out of here, no problem. Alright, so we're going to be coming up on our first pipe transition. We'll see where it takes us. And it leads us right into the neighboring pipe, so it doesn't really do us any favors. Alright, so our first fortress is going to be 6F1. So we see Proa making his way in there right now, so he'll have an opportunity to damage boost across the spike bed if he chooses to do so. Looks like he's gonna sacrifice those 10 seconds so he can hold on to his tail, just take things a little bit safer. Definitely can't blame him for that. So from the first Hammer Bro fight, it looks like we have a music box. And it looks like Human Mustard is taking the other forge, and he decides that he's going to forego doing the World 1 fork, since it's not really going to be required. So we see Paradox making use of some of the damage boost strats. Looks like he boosted about halfway through the spike bed, so we can at least hold on to Big Mario. So it looks like the wall is elevated a little bit compared to the vanilla SMB3, so it looks like these levels are formatted to be frog-friendly as well. So that'll have some implications for later on in the game, especially if they play a fortress like Fort Knox, so they don't have to use a tail in order to fly up to the ceiling. So they'll have a pipe transitions right away, right at the bottom. So it looks like Pro is choosing to forego the item grab, because maybe he wants to knock out Boom Boom and have an opportunity to break that extra lock, whether it's required or not. So it'll be interesting to see if it works out in his favor. So over on the left side, we have Human Mustard and Macobra making their way through 2-4. Macobra just barely avoiding death with those Boomerang Bros and the Fire Bro. Alright, so it looks like Proa and Paradox, on the other hand, are doing some experimenting with the pipe transitions, trying to make their way over to the end of the map. And it looks like they're entering the World 3 airship at roughly the same time, so airships may not actually be randomized in this seed, unless, again, this just happens to be a coincidence. It's kind of hard to tell with this seed right now. It's a little too early. So one thing we do know is that they're going to be facing Wendy. And we'll see how many hits it takes. So we have 2, 3. Looks like she's a 3-hitter. Alright, so we have Human Mustard and Macobra not too far behind. And they're going to be finishing up Wendy very soon. 1, 2, and 3. So we'll see what item they get from the End of the World 3 Peach letter. And we have some guesses in chat. We're going to have World 4 next. I'm going to go with 4 myself. So it looks like it's going to be a Fire Flower from Peach's letter, and the next one is going to be World 1. And looks like Proa just did an item check, and looks like hammers do not break locks in this seed. So the next fort is going to be 6F3. So they might end up doing a little bit of a damage boost just to end up building some P speed across the conveyor belt. And Proa doing a really good job holding onto his tail to the end. Alright, and it looks like Paradox is going to be the first one out of 6F3. So we're going to have to, so we'll be able to break the one and only lock that's in the World 1 map. So we'll be finishing up World 1 pretty shortly. Oh, I stand corrected. I didn't realize there was 2 forts there, so yeah, they're going to have to play one more and then take a bit of a more scenic route than otherwise hoped for. So the next one is going to be the quicksand level that you would normally see in SMB3, otherwise the Angry Sun level. Without the Angry Sun, what is this? Alright. So instead, we're going to be dealing with a couple fire chomps and some of those fake enemy blocks there, so luckily they're going to be pretty easy to navigate past. And it looks like the next fort that's, that's going to be breaking the second lock is going to be 4F2. So, yeah, there's a strat that you can normally do in SMB3 vanilla that you can do in Randomizer as well to build P speed, but it's a little hard because it's very easy to get frame ruled when you're running across those donuts. So, looks like, yeah, Paradox and Pro are going to be the first to finish. Pro being really careful not to lose that the Fire Flower to the hot feed right at the end. Ooh, looks like Makoba took a little bit of damage. That's no problem. They're going to be, he and Human Mustard are going to be finished up Boom Boom right at around the same time. And of course, we have everybody's favorite randomizer level, 6-6. So you can expect a lot of lag to be accumulating as we make our way through these blooper-infested waters. And you can see Proa being really meticulous so that he can grab that star. He's definitely going to want it going into these waters, so he has a bit of an easier time making his way past the bloopers. So it looks like they're lining up in his favor right away, just putting themselves right in his way so that they could be knocked out with the fireballs. And Makoba taking a few extra seconds to grab that Fire Flower, Human Mustard following suit. So yeah. Oh no, it looks like Paradox took a death somewhere. Right towards the end of 6-6 as well. So yeah, he's going to lose about 40 seconds here, but he's still within striking distance with the rest of the racers, so definitely don't count him out yet. He's been absolutely killing up until this point. So we see Makoba managed to hold on to his Fire Flower. Looks like Human Mustard, I think, took a little bit of damage towards the end, but no worries. They're still pretty much synced up in terms of level completion. And we see Pro making his way through level 3-3. And doing some really good platform hopping, making his way past the spinner, and he's going to be wrapping it up real shortly. Meanwhile, we have Paradox really close to wrapping up 6-6 right now. Wanting to be really careful around those fire piranhas right now. Oh, it looks like Makoba used the P switch so that he can build some P speed towards the end, and then just kind of got blocked in by those coins at the end. Yeah, no problem there. Pro is going to be our first one making his way to the World 1 airship. So it does not look like airship castles are going to be randomized this seed. It's been consistent 2 worlds for 2 now. We have World 1 airship in World 1. We have the World 3 airship in World 3. And looks like Larry is another 3-hitter, so maybe the damage on these Koopalings is not randomized either. Alright, so we have Makoba and Human Mustard finishing up World 1. Looks like they're doing a really good job holding on to their Fire Flower as well. Alright, Paradox making his way over to the coin ship. I did not have a chance to see what this Hambro had to offer, so I'm kind of curious to see what item it's going to drop. Unfortunately, not quite the Wrangless, so alright, so they got a star. Oh no, looks like he got a bit of a swag wall jump right at the end too as the level was transitioning out. So Pro is making his way through level 2-5 right now. Ordinarily not a difficult level to do P-Speed strats for in vanilla SMB3, but in Randomizer you definitely want to be vigilant of some of those Paragoombas that can definitely smack you right in the face as you're trying to make your way to the upper sections of the level. Looks like Human Mustard and Makoba had a really smooth time, you know, just navigating past those Paragoomba, holding onto their power-up. It looks like the next world is going to be World 6. So we'll see if these pipe transitions lead them anywhere worthwhile, or if it's going to leave them stuck behind the rock, and it looks like it is. Thankfully, we have a third one just right around the corner, so we'll see where that one leads, and hopefully there's not going to be any blocks or bridges in their way as they try to, you know, skip over a good portion of the overworld map. But it looks like they're going to need to backtrack as Human Mustard's realizing that, you know, hammers do not break locks, so it's going to have to backtrack a little bit to see where the next fort's going to be. All right, so we have our second coin ship, and we'll get to see which item that these hammer bros will have to offer as well. Ooh, Makoba got a little tripped up towards the end with that of that coin chip. Just got sniped by that last boomerang. That's unfortunate. So yeah, it looks like that item's going to turn out to be a P-wing, so that'll certainly come in handy for later on, especially as they make their way to the World 6 airship. So the next fort is going to be 3F1. So it doesn't look like any of them are going to go for the door 3 glitch. Definitely can't blame them to as far as Aris is concerned. So yeah, we see Paradox making his way through the alternative route in 5-8, just doing a big leap off that fourth cloud that you reach P-speed on to make his way over to the question mark block. Definitely a much safer route when you're doing rando in general. All right, so it looks like Pro is doing, and Human Mustard are doing 7-7. So they're going to be using a chain of stars to make their way past the Munchers. So we see Makoba doing a little bit of catching up as well, just making a really smart move, just 2 damage boost out of the Raccoon Tail so that he can accumulate P-speed a little more and not have to be on a timer. All right, so with 3F1 out of the way, it looks like... Oh, God! Looks like 5-9 was in the way, so yeah, Pro is like, yeah, I'm going to bail on this, and then I'm just going to play the fort instead, regardless of what it ends up being. Because that's, you definitely don't want to spend over a minute just in an auto-scroller. So yeah, definitely a smart move there. Just play 5F2, get it out of the way. You have a good opportunity to build some P-speed, or, you know, just otherwise do some platform hopping across the Podoboos. So yeah, we have some really sweet P-speed strats, you know, from Human Mustard and Makoba's side as well. Paradox being a little careful about those fire piranhas in 7-7. So he's going to have a nice advantage with Small Mario, so he doesn't have to worry about duck jumping underneath the pipe right at the end. So doesn't have to worry about clipping his head and then just losing speed. All right, so it looks like pretty much everybody is very close to wrapping up World 6. So yeah, definitely a good level, definitely a good airship in order to make use of the Talon. You could just fly over the mast and just be able to avoid those jet flames on the bottom section. Meanwhile, we have Lemmy being wrapped up, another 3-hitter. So yeah, I'm going to put my guess in for what the next world's going to be, and I'm going to say it's World 2. I'm curious to see what the next item is going to be from Peach, and it's going to be a hammer suit. So yeah, looks like all 4 of our racers are going to be well prepared for the end of World 8. So when they go into Bowser's Castle, they'll have that on hand. So it doesn't take them long to find the next pipe transition through World 7. That'll take them right to the Southeast Island. So hopefully this is going to be the fortress that they need in order to break that lock, in order to get to the airship. All right, so we'll be finding out really shortly. Is this going to be the one? All right, so we have Paradox wrapping up World 6. Oh, and it looks like it is the fort that was needed. So yeah, they're going to be breaking the lock. They're going to be making their way through the Piranha level, and they're going to be out of here in no time at all. You'll love to see it. Oh, and they get a cloud for their trouble as well. So that's going to be coming in handy. You know, if they ever come across a level like Atlantis or 7-5. We've already seen 6-6, and we've already seen... what was the other one? 5-9. So there's only a few levels left where you would really, really want to make use of that cloud. But at any rate, it's good to have, even if you don't end up encountering those levels, because you want to at least make sure you burn it before you get to the end of the game, so it just doesn't just sit in your inventory. All right, so it looks like Pro and Makobra finish up World 7 at roughly the same time. All right, so we've seen Worlds 1, 3, and 6, and 7. So what's going to be up next? I'm going to continue my guess and say 2. I mean, I got to be right one of these days. And while the next level's loading, I'm going to take a sip of my coffee. All right, we got World 5, and we have a fort right to start. It's going to be 6F2. So looks like both of our racers have the opportunity to grab a leaf right at the start. So looks like none of them really chose to forego the bottom route, you know, just flying through the underpath. They might just feel more comfortable just going through the thwomps, but even so, it's only a couple second discrepancy. It's really not a big deal at all. Oh, it looks like Human Mustard's going to be winding up, and he's going to go for the flight on the underpass, and he's able to get it. So this will allow him a good opportunity to catch up. Plus, he did that damage boost by the Rotodisc, so he'll be able to use his P-Speed to get to Boom Boom a little bit quicker. Oh, and it looks like we have 6-5 next. So, yeah, unlike the conventional randomizer, you don't really have to worry about grabbing a tail in order to get to the pipe, because again, these levels are going to be modified to be frog friendly. So you're going to have a pipe right there just waiting for you. And I think that Makobra just realized that a little bit late, unless he just wanted to get that tail anyway, which could also be a good possibility. So yeah, looks like Pro is going to knock out the Hembro with a star, and he's going to get another one for his trouble. I'm sure he would have preferred to use a music box instead, but it didn't look like there was one in his inventory anyway, which is all good. All right, so up next on Pro's side, we have one of the beta levels. So. And normally there's a shortcut in this level where if you stay on the upper section and have a tail, you can break a couple blocks to get to the pipe transition that'll take you straight to the exit. But at any rate, the enemy spawns on the bottom section really aren't that bad, so you can still get through there pretty quickly. So yeah, Makobra's demonstrating the shortcut right as we speak. See a little bit of swag with those tail whips as well. All right, so World 5 airship at the end of World 5. So we're going to have, we're pretty much guaranteed to see Roy Koopa at this point. So yeah, just as Pro is finishing up Roy Koopa, it looks like Human Mustard and Macobra are pretty much wrapping up at the same time. They've been neck and neck pretty much this whole race. Paradox had a pretty substantial lead earlier on in this race, but I think that after that death he took in level 6-6, he lost a good 40 seconds, so that put him a little bit behind, but he's still very much within striking distance. Plus, we still have another seed coming up, so he'll have plenty of opportunities later on in this race. All right, so we have World 2 coming up. So it looks like Pro has decided I'm not going to take any chances with any locks that may potentially be on the other side that could obstruct the pathway to the castle. I'm just going to get this out of the way so I don't have to do any backtracking later. Definitely not a bad idea. Probably something I would have done myself as well. Meanwhile, we see on Human Mustard and Macobra's side, we have another one of the, I believe the 5-3 beta level. So yeah, you scroll from left to right on the first half of the level, and then under that pipe you have right to left. And one thing I can tell you, you never really get friendly enemies when you're in the water. So yeah, it looks like, unfortunately, they took a little bit of damage from the Cheep Cheeps and Bloopers, but they're still alive and they still made it to the end. Yeah, speaking of randomizer levels with some pretty consistently rude enemy sets, we have 2-3. So definitely not a level that you can commonly get away with doing P-Speech threats the same way you would in Vanilla, so you might want to take it a little bit more carefully, just to make sure you don't get hit by a Paragoomba or a Flying Koopa. And yeah, they're still able to make good use of the fast shell strats to make their way to the pipe a little bit quicker. Ooh, and it looks like Pro took a death at the end of towards the end of the beta level, so that's going to be setting him back a couple seconds, and that allows Paradox to take a bit of a lead on him. But yeah, like I said, I can't stress enough, some of these Bloopers and Cheep Cheeps patterns in the water can be pretty nasty. So it looks like Paradox opted to use this cloud to skip over the beta so we can get to 2-3 a little bit quicker. But since he's Small Mario, it's definitely one of those levels you don't want to be vulnerable for, so he's gonna... If he plays a little bit slower, just to guarantee that he's a little bit safer, definitely not a bad idea as well. And if you have a Goomba Shoe to protect yourself with, might as well make good use of it. Very nicely done. Alright, so Human Mustard's actually going to be the second one going to the World 2 airship. Looks like Macobra just finished up Morton Koopa. So we're just 3 hits away from seeing what the next world is going to be. And it's going to be... We'll see. World 4. And the Peach letter gives him a leaf. So because by default you're gonna be required to see what you're gonna have to be you have to play 1 Ford anyway in World 4 just to be able to open up the bridge to get to the airship. So you'll might as well see what this one's gonna be. So will this one open the bridge? Meanwhile, we see Paradox and Pro entering 2-2 at roughly the same time. So it did not look like 5F1 opened up the bridge, but he'll still have another fortress, waiting for him right next door. So we'll see if he has any better luck as he makes his way through these next few levels. And with any luck, maybe good RNG will be in his favor, and he'll be able to avoid that last hammer bro. Ooh, that was some sick dodging on Macobra's side, making it just sandwiching his way between the boomerang and the hammer. Love to see it. Alright, so he does look out with the Hammer Bro RNG, so hopefully he doesn't come back and chase him later on. So it looks like Macobra remembered that this is going to be a frog-friendly level, so doesn't have to worry about grabbing the tail or going for a Tanuki suit or anything. The pipe is just going to be waiting for him in the second room, and he is out of here. Oh, nice. They got another cloud. But he's running out of places that he can really make any good use of them. So he may want to hold on to it in World 8, and hopefully he can skip over one of the two level panels that may potentially come up, depending on what the level layout is. So did not look like the second fortress that Macobra played was the one to open up the bridge. So he's going to have to do a little bit of backtracking as well. And it looks like the third and required fort is going to be 7F2, otherwise known as Piranha Fort. So thankfully we have a star as a power-up right in the beginning, so he'll be able to run right past these Piranha levels and then build some P-speed towards the end. He'll have a nice opportunity to pick up that leaf. That could definitely be a good insurance policy as he makes his way into the second room. So yeah, really nicely done on both Human Mustard and Macobra's side. So now that Macobra has finally found the required fort, he'll be the first one making his way over to the World 4 airship, where he's going to be facing Iggy. So Macobra's doing a really solid job, just winding up right in the beginning and just building his P-speed so we can just go over some of those wide gaps that the ship has to offer. Doing some really quick dodging because we have a bit of a jumpy pattern on Iggy's end. So Human Mustard is finally found the required fort, so he's going to be using the same star strats as well. And with Worlds 1 through 7 all cleared up, he's going to be the first to make his way over to World 8. So maybe with the way the level layout is set up, maybe he'll have an opportunity to use that cloud that he got from the Hammer Bro. We'll see. Meanwhile, we see Human Mustard wrapping up 7F2, and Paradox only a level behind, so it's still very much within striking distance with both Human Mustard and Macobra. So we see Pro-A wrapping up 5-7 as he makes his way over to 7F2 as well. See Human Mustard building up some P-speed strats. Gets a leaf for his trouble. Alright, so it seems in World 8, looks like the ships and the tanks are not randomized, so it's going to be pretty consistent with what you would normally see in vanilla SMB3. So the Navy icon is going to be the Navy, the airship icon is going to be the Air Force, and the tanks are going to be what they are. All right, so hopefully we'll have a pretty straightforward set of pipe transitions as they make their way through World 8. Hopefully they'll have a nice shortcut over to Bowser's Castle. We can only keep our fingers crossed. Ooh, he saw some pretty solid fire strats right at the beginning from Macobra's side as he made his way through 8-2. But unfortunately, he got a little bit too close to one of those fire piranhas as he was going uphill. But no worries. He'll still have plenty of opportunities to build some more power-ups as he makes his way through the rest of these levels. Plus, all 4 of our racers still have their hammer suits in their inventory. So they still have a nice opportunity to get a quick kill on Bowser towards the end. All right, so we have Human Mustard making his way over to Super Tank. We see Proa finishing up World 4, and he's going to be joining Human Mustard and Macobra in World 8, along with Paradox, who just wrapped it up. All right, so we see Macobra doing a couple pipe checks, see if we could find any shortcuts over to Valiant Bowser. See, it looks like the fort is going to be 3F2. So, yeah, thankfully for 3F2, it's going to be pretty consistent in Randomizer as it normally would be in Vanilla. So all of the stretchaboos are going to be in their same usual spot. There's not really any other enemies that you would have to encounter. So you can pretty much swim through it the exact same way. Well, it looks like Macobra finally found his way to Valiant Bowser, and he's going to be going in there full force with the hammer suit. And he gets the elevator clip for that extra swag, so that'll save him a good second and a half. And he got some good road at this pattern, so he doesn't have to do too much waiting as he climbs the stairs. Alright, so looks like Macobra's going to be doing his the clip to get to Bowser's room without having to deal with the statue room. So if there's one thing that is worth noting about Randomizer is that the statues that would normally shoot lasers are randomized as well as the fireballs that shoot in the statue room. So that could definitely trip you up and cost you your power before you even get a chance to fight Bowser. So it's not really worth losing 40 seconds when you could just clip instead. So it looks like Cobra's going to be first to finish up the first of our 2 seeds this afternoon. So this seed will end as soon as he enters the door, and then he'll be switching out shortly. So yeah, GG's to Macobra. Oh, it looks like Human Mustard took damage and he lost his hammer suit, so he's going to have to go through Bowser a little bit slower than he had otherwise hoped. You hate to see it. And we see Paradox getting the clip on the first try. So he'll be the second going into Bowser's room. So, yeah, it looks like Human Mustard's a little disappointed to see that he got a tail instead of a Fire Flower from that one power-up block. But no worries, he'll still have an opportunity to knock out Bowser real soon. So he's just 5 stomps away, and he'll be joining Macobra in seed number 2. So yeah, GG's to Macobra. I'm sorry, shoutouts to Paradox for being the second to finish up the seed 1. And as we make our way over to seed number 2, it looks like we're going to be starting off with World 3 yet again. But unlike the first seed, we're going to see an early pipe transition. So we'll see what this first fort's going to be, and it's going to be 6F3. So yeah, definitely a pretty tricky level to start off with, especially when you have no items and you're starting out small. So want to be a little careful with just dodging those rotodiscs and boos that can come up. So Human Mustard and Proa finish up seed 1 at roughly the same time, just a couple seconds apart. So they'll be doing their 60-second wait before they start the next seed. So it'll be interesting to see what elements of the game are going to be randomized this time, because again, there are certain elements of the game that may or may not actually be randomized such as whether or not hammers break locks or whether levels are going to be frog friendly. So we'll be seeing all of that revealed shortly. Ooh, and it looks like Makoba got sniped by that one fire bro at the beginning of 1-3. Thankfully, it was right at the start, so it didn't really cost him any more than a couple seconds. Alright, so it looks like Makoba is doing a bit of a pipe check just to see where the end of the World 3 map is going to be. Alright, so the next level we're going to be seeing is 1-6, so definitely a smart idea to make use of the lift towards the latter half of the level, because you never know what that enemy is going to be up top, so it doesn't really make any sense to use any P-speed strats, especially since you don't know if you're going to get something that you can actually stomp, like a Koopa. You could just end up getting a fire snake instead and then just falling straight to your death. So definitely worth it just to spend those couple extra seconds just to be a little safe. And as we make our way through 1-3, I don't really see anyone going for that item grab with just ducking for the white block. So they just want to finish up the level as soon as they can. Oh, I stand corrected. It looks like Provo is going to wait for it and see what that item's going to be. So we see Paradox actually making doing an alternative to the P-speed strat in 1-6. Since he has that tail, he can just pretty much fly over that big gap, so he doesn't have to wait for that lift to carry him to the end. Looks like he gets a hammer for his trouble, so we'll see if it pays off. We'll see if it's able to break any locks. Otherwise, it can still come in good use for when he makes his way to a level like World 2 or 6, where a rock can actually offer a good shortcut. And we see a question in chat, is there a general guide to speedrunning SMB3 you'd like to get into it soon? Well, I think that's awesome, and I'm more than happy to see more people run SMB3. So yes, we do have some guides, and we do have a dedicated Discord available, and I could definitely provide you those links and offer you some advice in DMs later if you're interested. All right, so we're going to be seeing our next word is going to be 6F2 over on the Cobra side. All right, so it looks like we're seeing a couple differences between the some of the other seed, the previous seeds. So it does not look like the we're going to have some vanilla airships at the end of the level. So it looks like we're seeing the World 4 airship at the end of World 3, and does not look. And it looks like the unlike the previous seed, we're going to be seeing randomized HP on the Koopalings. So. Unlike the previous seed where we just saw everyone being a 3-hitter, it looks like they could either be 1-hitters or 5-hitters, etc. And the next overworld is going to be World 5. All right, so we see good damage boost strats coming from him Mustard's side as he makes his way over to Boom Boom at the end of 6F2. And it looks like Makoba found a nice shortcut in order to get to the end of World 5. So he's going to be entering the World 3 airship where he's going to be facing Roy Koopa on flat ground. So hopefully he doesn't get any nasty jumping patterns towards the end. All right, so we got an early one-shot, and he ends up being a 1-hitter as well. You'll love to see it. All right, so we see Paradox taking an intentional death there. And he wants to see what's going to be on the underside of that pipe transition, so he just wants to make sure he doesn't have to backtrack in case there's a lock in his way. Definitely a smart move on his end. Yeah, since the path is clear, he takes that pipe and he's making his way over to the World 3 airship as well. And he's going to be wrapping up World 5. And the next one is going to be World 6. So yeah, we're only a couple minutes into the second seed, and everybody's seems to be pretty quick so far. How many seeds do the racers have to finish in this race? Only 2. This is just going to be a double seed race. All right, so we see the beta level that we saw in the previous seed. So yeah, they're just gonna take the pipe transition right at the beginning, make their way past the enemies, and then we'll have a nice quick, pathway to the exit pipe. And it looks like it's a little too late for that angry sun to be doing anything to cause any threats. So because they don't have any clouds, it looks like 5-9 is going to be a required level for them. Oh, I stand corrected. It looks like Human Mustard did in fact have a cloud there, so he's just going to skip over that right now. And he gets another hammer for his trouble. You love to see it. So that'll definitely come in handy later on. It looks like Macobra's taken a couple seconds, just to wind up P-Speed and see what the item is in store for the World 1 Fort. And it looks like it's going to be a Tanuki suit. So once again, we're doing a couple pipe checks towards the end, and I'll be interested to see if the hammers break locks in this particular seed. Alright, so Macobra's making his way through 5-7, doing a really good job holding on to his Fire Flower. Making a nice snipe on that last spiny egg. So yeah, Human Mustard's going to decide that, you know what, I'm just going to play this World 1 Fort. Yeah, it would cause too much trouble trying to see what item that this fort has to offer, so I'm just going to finish Boom Boom, and hopefully, even if it ends up being even if it's not a required lock, maybe it'll still do me some favors anyway, because we saw those 2 locks right towards the end of the World 6 airship, so I might actually end up being able to break one of those. And unfortunately, it's not. So once again, Human Mustard doing a bit of a pipe check. And he'll be happy to see that it takes him right towards the end. We see Macobra wrapping up the World 2 Fortress. So we'll see if that breaks up one of the required locks to get to the end. Macobra and Human Mustard are once again neck and neck in this race. They're both entering 5F2 at the same time. Looks like they're both making some really good use of the P-Speed strats as well. Yeah, this level is pretty consistent with what you would normally expect in vanilla. The enemies that do change, like the Boos and the Dry Bones, are pretty negligible for the most part. You can still pretty much execute the same level the same exact way. So once again, we see Pretty solid fire kill on both their sides. Looks like Makoba got a little bit of a marathon before he transitioned over to the second half, and they're perfectly synced up as they enter the World 7 airship. All right, so as Paradox finishes up the 5F2, he's going to be making his way over to the airship as well. So yeah, this ends up being a really close race, especially for being 2 seeds. This is really impressive stuff. So it looks like Human Muscle was able to take advantage of, Lemmy being back into a corner after that stomp, and then just being at the right angle just to spam those 10 fireballs into him. Makoba had a little bit of trouble, he got a little tripped up, but they still end up grabbing the one that just a couple seconds apart from each other. So Paradox is going to be next. He's going to be finishing off Lemmy. See Pro grabbing his fire in 5-7. He's going to be joining our racers real shortly. Good news is it ended up being a pretty quick Hammer Bro fight, but on the bad side, Star is probably not what the item that they were hoping for. So looks like both Makoba and Human Mustard had the same exact idea to check the second room to see if it was frog friendly before they go through the trouble of getting the Tanuki suit. And it looks like it is going to be a requirement, since I don't think either of them have any sort of tail power up in their inventory. I know that the World 1 Fort had a Tanuki suit, but I don't think that either of them decided to go for it. So this might be maybe a good opportunity for Pro to take advantage of it. So I do believe he was the one that grabbed it. Once again, Makoba and Human Mustard finishing up Boom Boom just a half a second apart from each other. And it does not look like the Hammers break locks in this seed either. So they're going to have to do a little bit of backtracking just to see where that second fort's going to be. So they have 2 extra levels that are going to be required on their end, so you hate to see it. Since they still have their Tanuki suit left over, they have a good opportunity to, even if they're not able to build P-Speed, they could still use their tail flutters to glide over a good portion of the water in this level. Yes, something tells me that Makoba did not mean to use the statue and just fall right in the water like that. So it took a little bit of damage, but it's not going to cost him anything, especially since he wants to have P-Speed as he makes his way over to 2-4 next. So you have a couple opportunities in this level to grab some power-ups here. He's especially going to want it now since he took some damage from that Sledge Bro. And he's just able to make it over that gap. Looks like Human Mustard got the fanfare with the 5 stars. So it's not really going to cost him any more than maybe 3 or 4 seconds, though. So yeah, Star Power-Up is definitely a good item to have as you're making your way through 7F2. And it looks like he gets a second one, so that's definitely going to help him as they both make their way over to the second room in this fort. So going to make mince work of these fire piranhas coming up. It's like Makoba is going to take a stop just to grab the raccoon tail. Paradox very much within striking distance of both these racers. Didn't look like he was able to build peace speed towards the end. I don't know if that was intentional or not. He just held back. But he's going to have another tail power-up. That'll be a nice insurance policy as he makes his way over to the second room. You see Paradox doing a little bit of damage boosting. Definitely a good idea since the tail has a tendency to slow people down. So towards the end of World 4, we're going to see the World 6 airship. Definitely one of those levels where it's advantageous, as we see on Human Mustard's side, flying over the mast and then being able to skip those jet flames on the bottom portion. So he'll be the first one going into the boss fight, where he's going to be fighting Iggy, and he ends up being a one-hitter. This is in. What's going to be the next overworld that we see? I'm going to go ahead and say World 2. I don't believe we've seen that one yet. And it ends up being World 7. Right on. So hopefully we'll have a fast World 7 like we did in the previous seed. Maybe we'll have a nice convenient shortcut to the Paradise Island. All right, so we see Pro wrapping up 7F2, so he's going to be joining our races in World 7 real shortly, since that's going to be the required fort in order to get to the World 6 airship. Oh, and it looks like we have 7-6 up next. So we see Macobra having a fun time just trying to clip that wall right there. So it's not really much you can do since it is a sub-pixel dependent trick. So you just have to bunk your head against the corner of that doorway and then just hope that you eventually phase through. It could be a little trickier to do with the tail because you decelerate as you're jumping, so that can affect the way you clip in as well. But it looks like after a couple tries, Macobra was able to get it. Oh, and meanwhile, we see the Human Mustard made his way to the end of World 7 really quick. And I couldn't get the exact count on that, but I want to say that Ludwig was a 3-hitter. All right. Meanwhile, we see Proa finishing up World 4, and he's able to get the off-screen one grab, so he's able to bypass the cutscene where you're dropping from the clouds. So he's going to be entering World 7 real shortly. Paradox is finishing up World 7 as we speak, since he's in the second Piranha level, so he's just a couple seconds away from joining them on that airship. So yeah, this has been an awesome race from all 4 of our racers. Got to give them applause yet again. Interesting move from Paradox, choosing to forego the Fire Flower grab as he enters the Ludwig fight. He probably decides he has a couple other opportunities to grab power-ups in some of the levels coming up, and he's pretty confident in what he has in his inventory. All right, so as we make our way through the World 1 overworld map, the next fort's going to be 4F2. So Human Mustard doing a good job holding onto that Fire Flower, and he's able to get a nice quick kill on Boom Boom. So we see Macobra finishing up the Angry Sun level without the Angry Sun yet again. Something tells me we've been pretty duped these past 2 seeds, as far as that goes. We see Paradox taking an alternative route, and he's going to do 8-2 first. Yeah, definitely not a bad idea, especially if you have that opportunity to grab that power up in the quicksand, and if there ends up happening to be an Angry Sun level in this particular 8-2, he has a chance to skip it as well. by taking that pipe. Alright, so he's going to be wrapping up 4F2 as well, so that's going to break the one and only lock that's in this particular map. And meanwhile, we see Proa just finishing up the previous world, so he's going to be taking the 8-2 path as well, and then next he's going to be doing 4F2 as well. Yeah, I do believe that that beta level that Macobra played was a beta of 7-3. All right, so then next up we're going to be seeing 3-3. See Human Mustard finishing up World 1 right now. So I do believe that only leaves us with World 2 next. And I gotta say, this has been a pretty quick seed so far, so we're already towards the end of the second seed. Alright, looks like Pro is being a little bit careful as he's making his way over to the latter half of 4F2. He wants to hold on to that power-up. And he gets his 3 hits on Boom Boom, and he's out of here. I can see we're already up to our favorite level, 8-1 over on Human Mustard's side. Didn't look like he was quite able to hold on to P-Speed, but he does make it past those bullet bill cannons, no problem. And he's able to hold on to his Fire Flower. And that's the most you could ask for in a level like that. Alright, up next we have 5F1. Definitely one of the trickier levels that you can normally do in Randomizer, especially with sometimes it's very easy to get nicked by one of those hot feet on the bottom, and interesting to note that sometimes those roto discs can reverse their trajectory, so when you normally do the P-Speed strat, it's pretty much the coast is clear in order to make your way past the thwomps, but you don't always have that luxury in Randomizer, because sometimes they're coming at you instead of, a long slide with you. So yeah, it looks like Paradox took a little bit of damage from those rotor discs as well, but he's still able to make it through there with his P-Speed, and he's going to be wrapping up 5F1 real shortly. Meanwhile, we see that Human Mustard lost his acceleration as he was making his way through 7-3, so yeah, he's going to lose a couple seconds here, but thankfully he still has a couple power-ups that he can work with. A good place to be making use of the star gimmick that's characteristic of 7-3. Don't even want to take your chances with those bombs and those spinies that are on the bottom section. So you just want to keep running through there. Not want to stop for anything. Oh, it looks like Paradox is making good use of those tail strats to fly over the mast in the World 2 airship. Looks like Paradox had a good opportunity just to do some catching up in general, because I do believe he's in second out of our 4 featured runners right now. Human Mustard's going to be the first one making his way over to the World 8. So we'll see if we have a linear path through that map's layout. We're going to have a jet pathway to Bowser's Castle, or are we in for a good scavenger hunt here? Yeah, how many bridges are we going to see for Bowser's Castle? We see one guess from Siryu for 3. I'm going to go ahead and say 2. All right, so right off the bat, we see the Air Force. So it does not look like the ships are going to be randomized. So if we see an Air Force icon, we can expect the Air Force. If we see a Navy icon, we could see a Navy. I do believe the force is still going to be randomized, though, at any rate. Oh, no. It looks like Macobra... yeah, it looks like he misfluttered when he was using the Tanuki suit. So, yeah, it looks like he lost his momentum there and then just fell, towards the second half of that level. So, it's gonna put a Human Mustard and Paradox a couple seconds further ahead, unfortunately for them. For him. So yeah, next up we have Super Tank, so definitely a good level to do some damage boosting out of that tail so you can maintain that P speed going into the Boom Boom Room. So Human Mustard and Paradox finishing up within a couple seconds of each other. Pro and 007 on the other hand, wrapping up the World 2 overworld map and the airship. So good opportunity to grab that Fire Flower there. He's definitely going to want to hold on to that because I don't think that any of our 4 racers really picked up that many items that they have right now. So they definitely want to preserve whatever they can in order to get a quick kill on Bowser. On our pipe checks right now, so... Oh, looks like Paradox went into 3-7 and then just got eaten by Boss Pass right away. Yeah, I hate to see it. So yeah, now that looks like Paradox had an extra clad in his inventory, so he's going to skip that 2-panel. See if it does him any favors. Oh, and he gets pulled in by the hand. Yeah, thankfully this is normally a quick level, but it's still a good there's still a slight possibility that he could get sniped by that one of the fire snakes towards the end, or a Koopa, but he makes it through there no problem. Yeah, good move on Macobra's side, just grabbing that power right away. Sometimes I forget it's even there. Yeah, good piece beat stress in general. He's able to skip over a good portion. Meanwhile, we see Paradox and Human Mustard just a couple seconds apart from each other as they're making their way through 4-3. Doesn't look like either of them really had any enemy patterns that are conducive to P-Speed strats, so they're just taking a little careful with some platform hopping, and they make it through there no problem. Macobra taking an intentional death here. Does not look like he wants to play this level at all. I do believe he still has his extra clad. Yes, he does. Oh, and it looks like we have a nice quick pathway to Bowser's Castle. Doesn't look like Human Mustard has a hammer suit, though, so he's going to do the next best option, just use his P-Wing, and then hope he gets a Fire Flower as he enters the Bowser fight. Right on. It looks like Paradox and Macobra are just a couple seconds apart. They're both entering the level at the same time. Macobra getting that one-up clip on the first try. Paradox took a little bit of damage from that the Rotodisc, but that's no problem. So, does not look like we were able to get a Fire Flower from the power-up block, so... yeah, he and Macobra once again neck and neck as they both enter Bowser at the same time. Alright, so Paradox, only a couple seconds. Alright, 2 more stumps from Human Mustard, and he is done with this second seed. Oh, it looks like Proa took a death from that from one of those Jeeps towards the end. Right on. So both Macobra and Human Mustard finish up the second seed at just a couple seconds apart from each other. Ladies and gentlemen, do get your GGs out. Human Mustard finishes up with an official SRL time of 104.57. Macobra finishes up with an official SRL time of 105.05. And Paradox finishing 105.15. So they all stayed within 10 seconds of each other. Really insanely close race. Gotta give these guys a follow. Alright, so now this just leaves Pro 007. He finishes up 4-3. He's only a couple levels away from Bowser's Castle. So I do believe on the other side of that hand bridge is where we're going to be seeing the end of the game now. So yeah, it does not look like any of our 4 racers had any fire flowers or hammer suits going into Bowser's Castle. So they all had to make use of a tail or a P-wing of some sort. It's like Pro having a little bit of trouble with that one-up clip. Has that Boo chasing him right, just a couple pixels away, but he makes it. Does not look like he's going to check for that to power up that to see what it is, so he's just going to finish up Bowser in any way he can. Ooh, got sniped by that last fireball. Ooh, and he falls in the fire. Looks like he saw that fireball in advance and then just tried to preemptively jump, but because he was just a couple pixels too early, wasn't able to quite clear that gap. Yes, we have 2 other runners, Mew Mew fan. In addition to our 4 featured runners, we also have, I believe, Animus United and S Diesel, and yes, just those 2. Pro is going to be wrapping up the Bowser fight right here as Small Mario. He's going to be taking advantage of Bowser's interesting hitbox. Yeah, interesting thing to note for those who may not know, Bowser's hitbox is only on his head, so the latter half of his body is going to be, it's not going to cause Mario any damage, so he can just pretty much stand in place, let Bowser do his thing, and yeah, he'll be finishing. He's only 2 stomps away from finishing up. He just wants to stand just closely underneath so he doesn't get nicked by those fireballs. And he's done. All right, so everybody get your GGs out for Pro 007. He finishes up with an official SRL time of 108.43. Really good job from all of our racers. So we'll be seeing momentarily if any of them are going to be joining us in the interview booth. All right, so it looks like looks like Makoba is going to be joining us momentarily in the interview booth. So yeah, we'll be waiting on him. Meanwhile, also worth noting that coming up on Speed Gaming over on the main Speed Gaming channel, we have FFR Co-op coming up at 1 p.m. And then later on at 2 p.m. to 4:30, we have A Link to the Past Randomizer Daily Race. While we wait for Makoba to join us in the interview channel, I just want to say again, this has been this is one of the closest weekly races that I've seen in a long time, at least within our 4 featured runners. Like Human Mustard and Makoba were pretty much neck and neck for the majority of the race. I think Paradox and Pro were actually had an early lead in the first seed, but yeah, I think that we saw a bit of a divergence and we saw a couple of trade-offs in the leads as soon as we saw those early deaths in levels like 6-6 and one of the swimming beta levels that we saw. So yeah, really impressed with all the things that these 2 seeds threw at our racers. They've been pretty consistently within just a couple of seconds of each other. We're having a bit of technical difficulty with the invitations for the Speed Gaming interview, but yeah, just as a couple closing thoughts, this has been a really interesting twist on some of the conventional randomizer seeds that we would normally play. For those who may not have heard the introduction or later on, yeah, this is a little different from what we would normally throw at our runners. So we have a couple elements in that game that we absolutely knew were randomized, such as the level locations and the fortress and the world order, the enemies and the hammer bros. But there were a couple things that were not really absolutely apparent until you actually started to play the seeds, such as what the World 8 airships, if they were going to be randomized or not, what the castles were going to be, what the hammer bro levels were going to be, where the overworld pipe transitions were going to lead you, the number of hits required to knock out the Koopalings, their ability to quake, whether or not the anchors would randomize an item. Believe it or not, I don't think we even encountered any anchors between any of our 2 seeds this race. What the chest items were. I know that in the first seed, the chest items were pretty consistent with each other. They were all 3 leaves, consistent with vanilla. What the toad houses were. I don't think we saw any of the end speed games played between any of the 2 races. Didn't look like the hammers broke locks in onto any occasions, but we saw in the first seed that we saw some frog-friendly levels that definitely helped out for levels like 6-5 and Fort Knox.